The subjects that will be addressed in the Systems and Operations workshop are firstly the systems, which are the tools that can be used within a business to support their production processes, and also operations, which is the way that the actual production processes are carried out, and how this can be supported by using standards and how that can improve the production process within a business.
Good morning everyone. To give you a little bit of background on precision printing, we're a general commercial printer and we supply print solutions to clients across all sectors: finance, retail, public sector, and also some consumer photo clients as well. We're always stretching ourselves, we're always looking for new ways to be able to serve and deliver our product. And our criteria for assessing new processes and systems is it going to add value to the customer? Not just can it be done, but what outcome is it going to deliver to the customer? 30 years ago, I started my first business, the weekend car wash, and I had my equipment, I had a bucket, I had a sponge, I had my wheel cleaner, I had a vacuum cleaner, and I wanted to expand my business. So I needed another piece of equipment, and that piece of equipment actually came in the shape of a wheelbarrow. It was actually a Dyson wheelbarrow, you know, the one with the ball on the front? And that allowed me to be mobile, and I was off. And the reason for sharing that story is that a lot of the success and growth that any business can have can come from the shop floor. It can come from an improvement in process, it can come from a new piece of technology that allows you to do something different. The change is really about how we deliver our product, and a lot of what we've done at Precision, as I hope you'll see when we talk about it, is about preparing for that change. It's been a process of constant change. I started work at Precision, which is a family business, when I was 16. We went from, in 2006, being a 40-year-old business which was turning over about £5 million. We handled 45 litho orders a day, we didn't have any digital, and our average order value was £496. 6 or so years later, our turnover is 14 million and hopefully 16 million this year. Most of it is digital, growth in digital, and we now receive up to 50,000 orders per day, and our average order value can be as low as £2.30. And the way that we've been able to achieve that is through the development of systems and operations. So what drove our digital print growth? Well, it was the adoption of web-to-print systems. When we look at web-to-print systems and template-based systems, it's about localization and relevance. It's about making the print accessible, easy to access, easy to get delivered, and relevant and effective for the customer. 25% of our business, certainly in the digital field, is generated by web-to-print systems. These wonderful systems that were produced were dealing with one of the pain points, and actually it was the pain point for the client. It was the pain point of being able to create an artwork so you can print from it. What they didn't do is to deal with the pain point of how we as printers deal with orders which are now of a value of about £10 to £15 instead of being of a value of £496. But if we have difficulty producing 250 business cards, how on earth are we going to produce one calendar effectively with a high-res file going to somewhere in Europe? And that was exactly the challenge that was presented to us by our client Photobox. Calendars are obviously a seasonal business, they had their own factory, but they were looking for a supplier that could help them at Christmas when they have too many orders to produce. And the proposition that they gave to us is that you can print some calendars for us, and at that point it was in the thousands per day, or 1,000 per day rather than 50,000 per day. But you're going to need a system, and you're going to need a system to receive the order, you're going to need a system to track the order, and we need your system to be able to tell us when you've got it, and we want you to tell us when you've shipped it. And you've got to control the workflow. So naturally, being a salesman, I agreed straight away and then went back and started to do some work on how we did it. And because we'd already started on some of the pre-press processes, we created a system which was relatively simple in the outset. Now that example is a really exciting one for me because that's an application that started by wanting to replace paper. It was an application that allowed people to be able to draw on their tablet, but that's not good enough. Those things that they've produced on their tablet, they actually want to keep and they want to send them out to paper. As their business grows globally, they're not just going to need a printer in the UK, they're going to need a printer in France and Germany, East and West Coast America, Australia, Japan and so on, and they're going to want to be able to access that ideally through one point. So personalised and one-copy products, not just for the consumer, but also for corporate, like this American Express campaign, are going to become more prolific. We've got to be able to keep our clients informed, we've got to know what's going on, and we've got to be able to inform them. And we've got to be able to handle the whole pre-flight and pre-press area in an automated fashion. And that's what we set about developing with OneFlow. We went from having one developer to, when it was completing on the server-based system, having a team of 6. And I didn't know anything about developing software, but we did understand about process. That's one of the big takeaways that I'd like you to get from our discussion today, is that actually the things that you don't know, you know, and you can find that skill and you can bring it into your business. But actually the ideas and the content that go into the system are likely to come from the shop floor, and you'll see that in a moment. We developed the system, and for a number of years we ran it as a server-based system at Precision. And the reason that we wrote it in the first place is that I looked to the market to see whether or not there was anything that could automate our web-to-print orders and the orders from the photo industry, and there was nothing. 4 or 5 years later, we looked again, and there was still nothing, but the pain point is growing. You know, more and more of us have web-to-print systems and are struggling with this pain point. And also the market for clients that are wanting on-demand print from the new apps that are emerging and so on was growing. So we decided to redevelop the product to make it commercially available. What does a print service provider have to do to be able to excel in the digital space? If you're going to be in digital printing and 2,000 jobs sounds terrifying, then you've really got to be planning for the future for 5,000 to 10,000 jobs of very small quantities. Now, web to print actually isn't just digital, it's also offset. Some of the biggest web to print companies are people like Flyer Alarm and PixArt. They use offset technology to be delivering 20,000 leaflets, 10,000 books which are ordered from the internet. But again, you want to automate the process as much as you can. We want to eliminate operator interventions. We need to be able to onboard new customers digitally and quickly. We want to receive more jobs electronically, and we're going to want to communicate with customers differently. We want to remove all the administrative bottlenecks, and we want to get smarter at partnering. So what does the OneFlow Cloud do, and how does it work? At the top here, we have the off-the-shelf applications. So into our print factory, we can have feeds from mobile apps, we can have feeds from client websites, we can have feeds from our own web-to-print systems, and if you've got more than one, that's fine. We can connect to those as well. And we can have feeds from either our own internal systems or procurement systems, anything that can send us data. Terms like API, which is a means of connecting two systems together, are something that are indicative in cloud software, which allow you to connect one thing to another so they can communicate, which has always been a problem with computer systems in the past. They then move into our cloud infrastructure. So there's a user access portal. This is where we develop the order queues, the routing, storage and distribution, and we also take care of the pre-flight checks in the cloud. But crucially, from that point, we can potentially move orders based on a criteria out to another OneFlow printer. What are the processes? Reading across from left to right, we have studio pre-flighting, batching and scheduling, imposition, press assignment, finishing, whatever those finishing processes are, lamination, trimming, etc. Assembly, which is bringing all the parts together, invoicing, collation and dispatch, printing the labels and the shipping documentation, and then sending back the communication. And crucially, we also plug the system into all of the available couriers globally. So our system talks to FedEx, DPD, UPS, and it raises the consignment notes automatically, so somebody hasn't got to rekey the data again. Email over the PDF, we can book that straight into the system, and rather than taking 10 minutes to book it in via MIS. And then pre-flighting, where's the artwork for this job, what fixes are needed, so we have automatic pre-flighting for fonts, pictures, etc. What's the optimum batch schedule for efficiency? If you take all of the little steps from finding the job bag, getting the file, getting this, getting that, talking to the studio and so on and so forth, you go from probably somewhere around 60 minutes to process a job through the factory to less than 5 minutes. And that's start to finish, including shipping. And that's how we're able to produce jobs for as little as 65 pence with an average order value of £2.30, but maintain our profit margin on that work. And in doing so, open up all sorts of new projects that are going to drive pages. Most of the efficiencies that we talk to our customers about don't come from the pre-press environment like you might imagine, but it's actually come from the shop floor. It's actually come from control and seamless lean manufacture, and that's where we're picking up most of the time. So obviously having a dashboard in order to control this activity is important. So we want to see how many orders are coming in and from which source, whether it's from our template web to print system like VPress, or it's coming from one of our retail clients like Photobox. We can see those items coming in, and from that we can make some predictions. So when we are packing thousands and thousands of calendars at Christmas, we have to use temporary staff because we haven't found a way to pack them automatically yet. So people make calendars on a Sunday when they're sitting at home watching the telly. They don't make them on Friday night when they're out at the pub. So Saturday we need less people than we do on Monday. And the only way you're able to control that is by keeping a view on your inflow. So this dashboard was actually at our temp agency, so we could control the amount of staff that we had a day or two later. So dashboards to be able to show us the items coming in, our performance against SLA, how many pigeonholes we're using. These are all key performance indicators that allow us to control and see how the business is working. And because we're really sad, we can access that through our smartphones as well and see how much is coming through. That we've configured the system in a way that it can be user defined. It doesn't require recoding in order to adapt a new product or to bring something else on. That's very important for the future of the market because our future on-demand clients aren't all going to be as big as Photobox. You know, they're going to be startups, they're going to be small businesses. They might be spending £1,000 a month with us or £2,000 a month. But if we can connect to enough of those, then we can actually have a really interesting business. But we've got to be able to get them into the business quickly and easily. The OneFlow Cloud, by moving everything to the cloud, all of that hassle is taken away. You don't need to have that expensive infrastructure on site, so you don't have to pay for it up front. And as importantly, you don't have to maintain it. And that gives us scalability because in the on-demand business, not every day is going to be the same. You will have peak days, and what you don't want to have to do is to buy servers that deal with your peak processing day and then not use them for the rest of the year. There are so many applications in the cloud now that arguably, you know, cloud security is more secure than anything that we can ever deliver on our own premises, no matter what our procedures. So the product offering now, it's the only single fully integrated production platform that can receive orders, render prints, manufacture and assemble. It significantly reduces the resources that a printer needs and the need for human intervention, and that allows you to price the product based on your production cost and not on the administration that it requires for you to do. It manages multi-format, print and other physical products. It's the only cloud-based global network. The network enables global brands to produce and fulfill in local markets. It enables PSPs to share manufacturing capacity across countries. So if we think about systems and operations and disaster recovery, if you have a print-on-demand contract and you have mission-critical work and you have some kind of failure on site, how are you going to maintain your SLAs? So whether it's just load balancing, the sharing of capacity, or being able to reverse out of a disaster situation, connecting and creating a network of partners that you can rely upon using the application would be attractive. It can be deployed in hours, and you don't need to be a coder because we understood that most of our customers are unlikely to have that resource in their business. 95% reduction in onboarding new customers, and we see that as being key because you're going to have more of them in the future. And because it's low cost at the start, there's really no risk to trying it and no barrier to getting started. And then it's transactionally priced and you pay for what you use. And having it available into the future is very attractive to me, and I think it will be attractive to our customers.
Good afternoon everyone. My name is Kelvin Bell from BPIF. I'm the e-commerce director. I'm one of the founders of BPIF 13 years ago. We market ourselves as a UK European leading web to print provider. Just to put that into perspective, 5-6 years ago there were 65 companies offering web to print. When we started, we were one of only two, only 13 years ago. In today's market there's 16 companies. Of those 16 there's only really 3. There's a lot of people reselling and rebadging other people's technology. We develop our own software here in the UK and we support it. We're profitable and still growing. Through the recession, the last 3 years we've seen 30% year-on-year growth, so we're doing something right, and we've not lost any customers in 13 years, which is a huge positive and something we're really proud of. It's not a technology that we concentrate on, it's our customer service. We've never been in a position where we can force people to use our technology in a certain way. How we combat against that is by having great customer service to find out where our customers want to go and where their customers want to go. We're a trade supplier, we don't sell directly to your customers, we sell to the print companies. So what is web to print? The ability to process a web-based order via electronic means, i.e. print. It's being able to process an order from the internet into the print production. A lot of people think it's just a case of getting an order and chucking it over towards the printer, but it's way beyond that now and it's continued to evolve and it doesn't stop to evolve. Print-ready products commoditised into the production workflow. It's taking that file and it's dropping it into the production workflow. It's integration with your MIS provider. So your web-to-print solution should tie up to your MIS provider or your production workflow like OneFlow, as Gary discussed. All we're doing is we're just taking the steps, we're automating as many steps from getting the job from the customer into production and then back to the customer as possible. Everything about what we call web-to-print or dynamic publishing isn't really about the artwork now, it's about the data. Data is key and data is only going to become more prevalent in the digital age that we're clearly in. It commoditised variable print products. People can create it, sign them off themselves and drop it in the production workflow. So the errors are reduced dramatically as well as the time. It automates the production workflow. By dropping the jobs with the correct data wrapped around the jobs, we drop them in the MIS systems. We offer free integration into any MIS system anyway. So the print buyer, the person actually buying print in the B2B environment anyway, has dramatically changed over the last 10 years. Now what we've got is commodity buyers, where the average age is 27, female and a graduate with no print background. And they're purchasing people, they move from one area to another area to another area. And these are the people who prevail in the business-to-business world. The print vendor has and is changing. Printers just weren't ready 13 years ago to adopt this kind of technology. So we moved over towards print management companies and specifically office product companies who complement the print market. What we've seen as we've moved into recession, we've seen a reduction in the number of print management companies capitalising on the positions with clients, and we've seen the emergence of printers who are now offering all the services that a print manager offers direct. And we see that as quite a positive for the industry. So UK print management experience has entered Europe. We're seeing a lot of printers and print management companies winning work overseas. The print here is much more automated, to a much better quality and to a much better price than standard production over in France and Belgium and even Germany. So we're seeing printers competing in those markets, which is something I wouldn't have said 2 or 3 years ago. So if you take the market as £14 billion, web to print is approximately 25% of that market and increasing. So although the number of printers is decreasing, I'm really trying to highlight a positive there in the opportunities within the market is increasing. Ties in the customer for the long term and it facilitates growth with that customer. Once you engage with the customer and you start commoditising some of their products, you can then start having a different conversation with that customer and asking them what else they would like to do. If you're automating those jobs, it gives you more time to spend in customer management and how you engage with them. So it allows people to grow business and there are no limitations to what the system can do. You know, the system has moved into large format, point of sale, direct mail, various different areas. It automates production workflow. It reduces admin on management information, but it reduces the administration on the production side as well. So by not having to rekeying any job details on a system from one system to another system. You can engage with your customers via e-procurement. Now e-procurement's got many definitions, An example I'll give to you, if you want to engage with any council in the country, they use a system called Oracle P2P. You can actually link a web to print system up to that Oracle P2P system, and normally you will get paid in 4 working days. There are no invoicing. They go onto their catalogue, they view your product, if there's any variable they'll facilitate using a web to print system, and then you get paid in 4 working days. So you can start growing your business through automation. Printers will buy web to print reactively, not proactively. The most successful ones are based upon a customer requirement. If you've got a customer and there's an opportunity there to automate it and make yourself more efficient, it's a chance for you to engage with the customer and see where they're going to go. The clever printers now, like Gary's team, they work with their customers. They find out where the customer wants to go for now and then later on. There's an opportunity there to work in different languages. So web to print now can actually, people can order and create items in any language that they want. So there's a benefit there as well for the customer. The ideal world, all MIS systems will engage with all other systems. Technology should never be an island. Technology should be something that engages with lots of different systems. When you're implementing any form of new working practice, it's important to get people on board. The most important people to get on board are your studio. Get your studio to understand that by implementing a web to print system, their jobs aren't being made less secure longer term. A web to print system should complement the studio, not replace it, and they work hand in hand. When you're going on the internet, in the B2C world, you can drag and drop names, you can drag and drop logos, and you can up logos. There's generally something behind that called Flash or Silverlight, which is a piece of software you've got to install. Flash is the predominant one, which no longer works with any Apple device. So you could actually go and buy a web to print solution for £30,000 plus and it not be able to work in any of your corporate customers or business customers at any level. So you have to be very wary that whatever you pick as your preferred solution is coming from your preferred partner who is also going to assist you longer term in implementing the software and working out what can work and what not can work. Some software only works within a certain browser. And I'm sure most of you know there's lots of different browsers in the market. It's not just a case of being able to work in all the browsers, you've got to be forward compliant with those browsers, but also backward compliant with those browsers. Licensing software is something that's very gradually being phased out. We work in a cloud environment now where you can scale up and you can scale down. You could implement some software, you could win a big customer, and you could go bust just paying the licenses to get them to use it. So you've got to be very careful of that. DAM, digital asset management, the ability to manage data and assets electronically to complement web to print. So we've now got printers who are managing the client's assets and data and also going out to third-party sites and bringing in more data, because data is a commodity and it's an expensive commodity as well. They're managing those elements of their client and charging them for it as well and allowing the client to create their own print and they're printing on the back end. So we're seeing printers evolve and becoming more agile in this technology marketplace. So quick summary. Web to print assists in making printers more efficient. It promotes better relationships with customers than conventional ones. It opens up new markets and opportunities. It's not cost prohibitive. A lot of technology now is pay as you go. Web to print can be transactional. The majority of our customers are transactional. It's a cheaper way of doing it. Only buy what you're going to get a return on. Can be implemented quickly, promotes scalability of business, and can drastically, positively affect cash flow.
Well, good afternoon. Thanks for coming back after the lunch break. This morning, you were very much talking about systems, really about implementing things, tools which are going to actually support your day-to-day working within a business, when you're thinking about automation, when you think about your MIS systems. What I'm going to be talking about this afternoon is actually going to be much more, obviously, about the production side of things, so the operations side, and how standards have been generated in to either support, audit, or just ensure that you're saying what you're supposed to be doing. So, what is a standard? Why do they exist? Who cares, or who created them? How they're policed, how they're implemented, and what the business reasons are for implementing them. At this moment in time, there are about 60,000 standards. The definition of a standard is a level of quality of attainment, or something used as a measure, norm or model in comparative environments. So basically what standards mean is basically we're going to have something, we're going to set a standard, and then that's what the rest is actually going to have to be compared to. And it's getting to a position where you agree where that standard starts. Most people will have a health and safety management compliance scheme. The BPIF provides when you're members, our advisors to go through and do a health check with you to ensure that you're legally compliant. This is not a legal requirement. However, it's becoming more and more prevalent as your own suppliers are looking to ensure that you're safer working environments, ethical audits, things like that. FSC, again, that is a scheme. It's not an actual standard. So what it is they call it a chain of custody, i.e. you audit where everything's come from, but it's not actually, doesn't come down to ISO. And the reason why we'll go into that a little bit later is when we start talking about where these standards come from. But it gives you an idea of the kind of depth and the kind of all-encompassing it can be within a business. And obviously it comes down to a strategic decision within your business about which ones you think are going to improve the business. And there's a significant amount of resources that we're required in order to implement these. Why, as a business, would you want to implement them? Cost savings, access to new markets. What do I need to do in order to ensure to them that, one, maybe it's looking after data. Is it going to your brand owners, the people who are like the top brand owners, and saying, I will look after your brand. And you know what? I can prove it because I have this in place. Differentiation, everybody's looking for unique selling points, yeah? Adding an extra added value option. You're using data. Do you know what? We're certified in this data. We'll take your data, customer, and we'll use it. We'll secure it. We'll make sure that we use it, impactfully in terms of using your marketing campaign. But it'll also be secure with us. Thank you very much, printer. I don't want to touch data. I don't want to get in trouble. Suddenly there becomes an area where you can actually start adding value to the services that you're providing because you're taking away that fear factor from your customer and you're ensuring that you're keeping it, and also you're locking them into potentially longer term projects because you've got that data and you're managing that data. And one of the main areas, especially actually during the last couple of years, has been dispute resolution. And a lot of the time it's been because of quality, and predominantly actually that's come down to colour. So getting a industry standard could potentially help, making the business more efficient. And as the systems this morning facilitate the way that you do your work, as Gary Peeling was going on about speeding up your workflows, meaning that actually, do you know what, you can get work through faster, cleaner, more quickly. What we're looking at now is actually the operation side and how you can make your business more effective and more efficient. These standards, well, initially can be seen as quite big, scary implementation projects, actually can be used as a basis for continual improvement within your business. By looking at something like a standard, if you've already implemented it already, but thinking, well, what can we do? What can we wring out of it to actually produce even more benefits to our business? And actually, how can it be a way of actually improving the performance of not only the business, but let's get down to it, the staff, your colleagues. And when you think of standards, actually, a lot of the time you kind of think, well, they're over there, they come up with these things, they chuck them over, and then suddenly you end up with them on your lap. And you're thinking, well, wait a minute, where's it come from? Why on earth has it been created? But what they're basically trying to show, from the ISO, the International Organizations of Standardization, and they look at things which will impact an industry, be it quality, be it environmental, and they'll get the top people from around the world together in a working group, and they will literally hammer it out for days and weeks on end, and they'll come up with a set of requirements which comes up into a great old book of thousands and thousands of requirement schemes. And then you'll have another working group underneath it which will then make it implementable, i.e. make it relevant within the industry. Then that goes through another section of a working committee which takes that theoretical information and then thinks, right, how can this be implemented within a business? How are they actually policed? So a lot of the time what you have is actually you have internal auditing. But there's somebody who's in the organisation, it's their responsibility. But externally, so what you'll do is you'll have a group of certification companies who are accredited by this thing called UCAS. Now UCAS is the UK Accreditation Service. They're the people who accredit companies to say, right, you go into that company and you see if they are actually doing what they're saying they're doing, and are they doing what the requirements of that scheme actually asks them to do. And UCAS, trust me, I've worked with them a lot. They're a big organisation and they're very, very strict. UCAS is actually part of the international accreditation scheme. So what you're looking at is actually a certification company who has not been anywhere near the actual implementation of the scheme. They're completely separate. I would say this, I would never get into the car with somebody who said, yeah, I passed my test. Oh, okay. Yeah, I tested myself. I'd be like, yeah, right, okay. See you later, mate. And so what UCAS looks at is for that independence and that rigour to ensure that what's being said is actually being done. One other thing I'll just mention, because I wrote it at the bottom because I remember this morning, but with the 9001 and some of the other ones that we've got down there, what it does is it tries to, it helps you to explain what your production process is. And what it does actually is it tries to improve or to make consistent the production process that you've got. And then the more consistency you have with the production process, the more you can start looking at actual improvements that you can make to that production process. So there's a lot about these standards which actually will be beneficial to the production process itself. What you don't want to do is hamstring yourself to make out to them, actually, do you know what, this is easy, don't forget about it, when actually it's going to be a challenge. The positive language doesn't mean that you just say, somebody asks you, look, I need you to move Mount Everest, and you say, yeah, please, yeah, no worries, it's done. It's conveying the sense of the can-do attitude, but also ensuring that you remind them that what you're doing is you're providing a real valuable service to them. Don't belittle the work that is done by just saying, yeah, no, it's fine. Think about how you actually press ahead to them, the fact, you know what, this is going to be quite difficult, but you know what, because of the team that we've got, we'll ensure that we make this, and we'll ensure that the product at the end of it will provide you with your desired requirements. Now, I'm not much into the psychology. I've never really got into that area. But these first three areas, what the leader tends to measures, rewards, controls, leader reaction to critical incidents, leader role, modelling, counselling, out of any decision that's made, those three encompass pretty much 95% of the decision process. You understand what the touch points of management or actually even staff itself, if you can work out what their rewards, what their moments, if you can understand what gives them that little bit of a feeling. These three are very much part of the management decision making process, 95%. So if you understand the leader's reaction to critical incidents, and they're saying, right, okay, well, what is a critical incident? Well, anything that's with regards to the customer. Okay, how critical is it? Well, how important is the customer? Okay, so how are we going to ensure that the language that we use in this context of the customer is as positive as possible? But the whole concept of standards is looking at them not as a yoke around your neck. It's actually looking at it and trying to change your mindset and saying, do you know what? If we get the standard right, by helping them to improve their process, it usually comes round to actually helping you with yours, because you're not having to deal with that mess. This is the BPIF ISO 12647 scheme. When I started the process of creating this documentation, what we were looking at was that, okay, well, how about we try and get a tool which will provide the industry as such, the British printing industry, with a tool that can actually push some of those pressures back. Now, what you see in front of you is a fully finished international standard. It is now being discussed by the people in that little white mountain, big white mountain at the top of the world. They're now discussing and thinking about using this as the international standard. UCAS have very strong requirements. In order for it to be auditable by an independent authority, you have to have every single different stakeholder that's involved in the production process. And you have to get all of those different stakeholders to agree. Otherwise, UCAS will turn around and say, no, we're not having it. In order to have a standard in place, everybody involved has to agree on that scheme. But in a positive way, do you know what? We get our team trained up working to the same production methods. We get them all working together. They attain something like this. It's like a celebration of the work that they've done together. It's like a pat on your back. Well done you. You've got this. Do you know what? Not many people have this. And do you know what? Nobody else in the world has anything like this in terms of when it comes to dispute resolutions or anything like this. Do you know what? I prefer to have something which I measure accurately on something like a spectrophotometer, and I can say to somebody, by the way, I know you said that this colour isn't right, but I can prove to you, I can tell you, do you know what, bang, here are the numbers to show it. This is the industry standard. I said I'll print it to this level, to this control, I've done it. If you look at your processes that you have in your business, and you map them accurately, and you look at improving those processes slowly but surely, you're working to these schemes. Because by mapping your processes and looking at them carefully, you'll be able to identify the areas of risk. And you can actually streamline your processes, reduce the amount of time that production takes place. Yeah? Speeds it up. You do it well, these schemes fit nicely on top.